We'll continue by looking to different segments of unemployed people according to Marx. And well, you will see in the coming parts actually these segments will be more relevant than you think. You might think at first, I mean, Marx is, you might say, is usually taken as an irrelevant economist by many mainstream economists, but here, I mean, these definitions are kind of reflected in very similar looking uh, actual measurements, basically. The first group is the one which he calls the surface level short-term unemployed people who are just unemployed for maybe a few months, and after that they are likely to find jobs. Um, those are the classical when unemployment is measured. Usually, they are the ones that are measured, and then there is a marginally attached group. This group is actually Marx defines it in this group in two different ways. One is short-term temporary workers who find job at are working, for example, half of the day or find jobs for half of the year. For half of the year, they remain unemployed, basically. So they are willing to work more, but they cannot find jobs for as long as they are like to work, basically. So they are still part of the reserve army because they actually want to work longer. And then there are people who are always unemployed. Those people are called by Marx actually paupers, like beggars. They are dependent people. In the current economic system, there is no way they can find employment, and as a result, they depend on other people's, usually other workers, help to survive. But if economic conditions allow them to find job, they are also willing to find jobs. So they are potentially also part of the workforce that is that will join to the employed workers if conditions allow it. So unemployed, the reserve army of labor is part of the workforce according to Marx, because they are potentially they are potential workers, and they have a use even when they are unemployed, and they also provide a source of labor for the companies from which they can draw whenever they need additional labor. So this last group, especially because they are not able to find jobs and they are actually usually um, are desperate, basically, they are counted outside of the labor force. Uh, so they are also not considered unemployed. The second group is also not considered unemployed since they have a job. If you have a job, you are not officially unemployed according to the most classical unemployment rate definition. So the only first group is considered unemployed, and unemployed people are also considered part of the labor force, by the way, according to the official definition. So that definition is also true for the current current economics, taking unemployed people part of the labor force. So an important development in related to unemployment come in 1930s from John Maynard Keynes, although his analysis mainly concerns with the short run, not long run, but he also claims that short run is actually longer than people think at first. So it is not necessarily, it can sometimes continue for 5 years, 10 years even, the short run period, what is defined as short run period. And according to him, one of the important reasons why unemployment exists was the fact that wages are sticky. And he defines wages are sticky because worker-worker competition. So workers usually look to their fellow workers when they compare their wages, and when you decrease the wages of workers in one industry or one company, or even one particular type of job, they might not agree it because their relative wage, according to other workers, fall. If there's a possibility to decrease all workers' wages at the same time, they would accept it. But because of this worker-worker competition, basically the wages are, the way Keynes described, is sticky. But that means whenever economy is going bad, prices are going down, wages cannot fall fast enough to adjust to the new price levels. Of course, there are some other problems that are creating unemployment. When prices fall, the debt companies have to each other stays still high. And since the companies that are needed to take that debt are also, basically need to pay money to other companies, so they are not easily able to decrease the debt levels also. So collectively, people are indebted high amount of income to each other, but because demand is low, economy is in crisis, the ability to sell goods at the existing price level is not that high. So this creates a crisis, and this also is the reason why unemployment might exist in the long run, because this high wage levels, high cost of labor means that certain workers might be fired by the company because they are not able to decrease the wage level as fast. Well, you might ask, is firing workers easier than the decreasing wage level? Workers certainly won't like to be fired. If the alternative is being fired, so they might be maybe more reasonable when their wages decrease. We will look to this actually. There's an empirical source to that. I mean, why for the companies firing might be better than the decreasing the wage level. So these high wage levels, which are not able to go down fast enough and adjust to new prices, are, according to Keynes, one reason why the unemployment can exist in the short run, which can be longer than people usually think short run. Well, one remedy of this actually is inflation. If you have inflation, that means the price levels of all goods are increasing at a certain rate. So labor costs are actually collectively getting down. That means that whenever there's a crisis and wages need to go down, the persistent inflation itself, which automatically exists in the economic system, might be a cure. Actually, it might keep the price levels going up, or at least lower the potential deflation that could be caused otherwise by the depression. And this continuous inflation that exists in the economy can also be healthy, because all costs the companies have to all other actors are continuously decreasing in value unless they are renegotiated. So it gives kind of a automatic power into the hand of the companies who continuously the value of sales becomes higher than their initial cost, basically. So, well, 30s was also a time when the actual measurements of the unemployment was taking place, and at that time, the people who are willing to find a job but cannot find job were become more visible, and since they were measured, and there has been an explanation made for them, which is frictional unemployment. Basically, people and the companies need time to find each other, and that time itself is the reason why unemployment exists. That's the most simple case, although there are some additional explanations for them. Persistent unemployment in the economic system. But when we are talking on the actual the unemployment that is created by the job search process, well, basically, of course, I mean, the understanding job search process in more detail could be useful for us to, well, discover the reasons that create the frictional unemployment in more detail. Basically now we will focus on the job search process, and then we will go back and look to the unemployment from the macroeconomic perspective once more. As for the job search process, well, again, we are looking to the job search process from an individualistic perspective, which is in this case actually not that bad. In many parts of the labor economics, I have partially criticized this individualistic perspective, but here it's actually working very, very good, basically. The main point is job search process is not some automatic process where you go out and basically look for available jobs that are just right in your next door and just get what you need most. Job search process is rather a tiring process where you make different applications to different jobs. Some of them accept you. The application process itself takes time and in some cases also money, because you might provide at least some documents for which you might need to pay, and in some cases you might also send some documents with money, and in some cases even there are some application fees, not always, but in some cases. And in addition to that, if you are accepted, now you need to go to the job interviews, which require additional money. In academic job market, actually, the money I have paid was actually around my 6 months living costs in the United States. Of course, those costs were low. I have lowered those costs, but that's a picture. I mean, whole job search process cost me 6 months of living costs, basically, in the United States for academic jobs. So then you need to go interview. For interview, you need to take a suit. That suit should be relatively good-looking suit, which is also cost money. You might travel long distances, especially you look to options outside of your city, which in some cases you might need to do to find a proper job. And of course, well, after everything else related to this, well, there might be different jobs, different positions available, and in some of them you might be potentially a good match to those positions, but whether or not those positions will be opened at the exact time when you are looking for a job are pretty much depending on chance. I mean, for example, here in Middlesex University, 2 people have left their positions, and that's how I could apply for this job, for example. So in many cases, the whether or not you are able to get the job is something, a process that has certain risks, which means it doesn't purely depend on how you do your actions. It depends on also some other factors. So it's not like, I mean, okay, as long as I'm good enough, I take the job. I mean, what good enough is might change, and even whether the job will continue to open might change, basically. So job search process is a risky process and is a costly process. In both ways, it is a process that looks like an investment process.